Grand Rising. It's so good to see you all. I'm super excited about today's Relocation Wednesday conversation. As planned, and I'm actually on time today, we will be talking about relocation, answering some of your questions, and I have a special treat. One of my clients, soon-to-be neighbors, and someone I consider a friend, will be joining us to kind of talk about her experience, what inspired her to move, how she's utilized my services, processes, emotional processes, just all of those things. So I know you guys want to hear from somebody who's actually doing it. So I'm really excited to have her on. She has her own platform now as well on YouTube. So I'm going to send her. And then after, we may have some time for some questions. Grand Rising.
Hey, Grand Rising.
So nice to see you, Kat.
So nice to see you as always, Marina.
So do you mind just telling the people about you, who you are, what you're doing, all that good stuff?
Yes, as I hold my phone in one hand on a stack of books. So that's what I'm doing. I'm studying. Hi, everybody. Grand Rising. My name is Kat. I am a PhD student and a full-time scholar in training, thinker, intellectual, and I work and do research. And I'm in Mexico.
AKA, she's brilliant. Where are you from?
That's a great question. I have like a long academic answer, but I'll give you the non-academic answer. I was born in the Caribbean. I was born in Guyana, which is in South America, and came to the US as a small child with my family, straight to New York. So New York is home, and Guyana is also.
Perfect. So I'm glad that you gave them the background, but you can give your academic answers if it feels more natural. Feel free. Um, so just to kind of like give you guys some background, Kat is a part of my Patreon family. She participates in our book club. She has given her energy and her opinion to our small sisterhood that we have over there. It's a group of women, and they all are unique and have a unique background and a unique voice. And she's currently in Mexico. So would you mind kind of explaining, it can be long form or short, it's up to you, the process of joining the group? Well, first, how you found me, joining the group, deciding to go to Mexico.
I don't know how I found you. I have no recollection how I found you at all.
All a blur.
One day I was just following you, and then that was it. There was like life before Marina and life after Marina. I don't know how I found you. I think I may have been looking on some YouTubes for relocation things, and I was just
Mhm.
looking at expat stuff in general. And I know I was looking into some folks that were on the continent. And so I don't know if I found you through that lens. I have no idea, but I found you, and you changed my life. So yeah, that's how
Oh,
I found you. I don't know how I found you, to be quite honest, but
that's
I
funny.
just was meant to find you, and that's how it is. So I've
A
already forgotten the
spirit.
second half of your question. So
Okay, the second half was from the point that you found me and what we've done together to get you to Mexico.
yes, so I
I
think
know.
I think catching a lot of your lives, catching quite a few of your lives on Instagram, and then hearing you talk passionately about the love that you have for Black people, the love that you have for people to be sovereign, for people to find their past, for people to be liberated and free, struck a chord with me. And so I booked a reading with you. That was the first thing I did. I booked a
Yeah,
reading.
that's true. Yeah.
I booked a reading, and you got my whole life together. Yeah,
Did we do
yes.
relocation first or a spiritual reading first? I think it
I
was
think it may have been
spiritual.
both.
Or maybe, yeah,
I think it
that's
was a
possible.
combination. Yeah, I think we ended up talking
Yeah.
about relocation first, and then it kind of got into spiritual. And then I
Yeah.
did a real reading, a longer reading after that. Maybe one or two more, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it changed
So
my life.
what was the breaking point, or when did you realize that you were being called to go on and pack up and leave?
Yes, I think I realized, and now I can really know based on my scholarship, based on the work that I do, based on being a doctoral student. A lot of my work looks at things that are global issues and transnational issues for Black folks from the diaspora. And so I've always
Hmm.
been leaning toward um, doing work in my professional life that helps me to think about the globe and the things that impact Black people. And
Yeah.
so I think I've always been kind of like on the edge of like finding a home in multiple places. And so that's just always been with me. That's just been my leanings always. And I think
Hmm.
the thing for me was realizing that I was having nightmares. One of the key moments was I was having nightmares about the police brutality, all of the things that are happening in the US right now. Like the
Yeah.
onslaught of that information was
Yeah.
actually giving me nightmares and keeping me up at night. And so once
Wow.
I realized that it was psychically impacting me in that way, I also knew I had to go. I knew I had to go. And I bought a ticket and was gone in 6 days.
Do you hear, repeat that please for the people?
I bought a ticket. I bought a ticket on a Friday evening, and then I was gone the next Sunday. I was on a plane. So that was like 7 days later. Yeah.
A lot of people don't, because they've never done it or because they've never heard anyone talk about it. A lot of people that are listening to us right now are single, are able to have an income, regardless of where they are. But the framework or the idea of how long it takes is often something that people ask me about. So, and you said you did it in 6 days. What do you think were the major contributors to you being able to make a move in under a week?
Well, it's funny you ask that. There's preparation even when you don't know that you're preparing or what you're preparing for. And
Boom.
I had been preparing, unbeknownst to me, to make a move. I didn't know I was preparing to make a move. I had stockpiles of like toiletries. I had stockpiles of random things, just because I'm a student and there's like so many there's like a place at school where you can go and get, all kinds of toiletries and things, whatever you need. And you can go once a month. And I had been stockpiling for close to 2 years on like toothpaste
Wow.
and soaps and just all kinds of things, shampoos. Like I stockpiled everything because it was, for students at no cost. And so
Yeah.
I didn't, and I was also working like 3 jobs this summer, which is another story because I'm always like doing 10 things at a time. But though I work part time, so you don't have to work full time. I don't work full time. I just every single money penny that I had, I said I'm going to pull the trigger and go. It was time. So for me, there was nothing to lose.
Yes.
I finished the portion of my studies that needed for me to stay in the U.S. and the rest of my
Hmm.
degree program, I could do it from anywhere in the world. So those key things were important for me.
So you had been unbeknownst to you, as you said, preparing
Yes,
anyway, because spirit was leading you. You just weren't quite you weren't aware to what end.
yes,
And then when you heard the call and you did self-evaluation about the realities of your situation and that you could leave,
yes.
you committed and then you did it.
I did. It was it was easy, and then all hell broke loose as soon as I bought my plane ticket, like the next day.
That's what I wanted to get to next, because a lot of people will DM me and ask me, about that. And I'm like, the moving part isn't the difficult part. What you're going to be doing with me and why it is that I do what I do is to help prepare you for the emotional aspects, for preparing for the separation, and then for the once you're ready to go, everything in the world is going to show up to try to keep you in place. That's what we're going to end, and that's where we end up spending most of our energy and our efforts together. So, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, because this is personal and
Hmm.
everybody's experience is going to be different, let's talk a little bit about that. I'm deciding to go. I have my ticket. And now all the animals
Yes.
and the monsters and the past and the
Whew.
family and the share what you feel
Every
comfortable sharing.
single every single boogie monster came out of the closet. Every single proverbial boogie monster that I had put away came out of the closet as soon as I purchased the ticket. And like the next morning, I woke up like I had a hangover. It was very weird. That Saturday morning, I woke up and I was discombobulated. I wasn't feeling well. Physically, I was feeling anxious. My body was like just run down. And I was on a
Yes.
high the day before. I bought this ticket. I was so excited. And then I started feeling terrible immediately.
Yes. Yes.
So that 6 or 7 days of me from purchasing the ticket to getting to the airport, it was a marathon. And I was being dragged to the literal last minute. When I got on the plane is when I finally rested. Because it was like
Yes.
every single opposition that could come out of nowhere came out of nowhere at that moment from all of those days.
Yeah, and it's because, and I remember we talked when you were
Yes.
like on the bus. I was like, Spirit was like, you need to reach out to her. I just woke up and I was like, you need to call Kat. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna call Kat on Instagram. I'm gonna call her. And because, I knew where you were in the process. And it's this crazy thing that a lot of people, because if you've never done it, you don't know what to expect, right? The
Yes.
way that it works is that when you decide that you're going to be a divine creator, you're going to shift the direction of the plan that you've been put on, then
Mm-hmm.
everything is going to rise. It's like in the Matrix with all the Smiths that just show up out of nowhere. That's how
Yes.
that works. To test your resolve, to see if you're
Yes.
really serious about what you're talking about, right? And this
Yes.
is usually where people fold. I've seen people put payments down on apartments and buy plane tickets and pay for relocation services with me and go, oh, I received some resistance, so that means I'm not supposed to do it. Not in this instance. In this instance, this is when you are receiving the hurdles and the tests to see if you're actually committed. Because after that, you get to start to heal and deal with some of the things that you weren't able to in your previous life. So it's a
Yes.
moment where you are tested by the universe. You're tested in your resolve. And
Yes.
you really need people, you need community to help hold you up in this
I
time.
agree. I agree. And so, some of what certain things that came up for me were like delays in my paycheck all of a sudden. I had issues, technical issues that came out of nowhere. I had issues with, a person that had prior assaulted me, popped out of nowhere and contacted me. And
Just
like,
what?
yeah, like
Yeah.
literally a person that had assaulted me came out of nowhere and contacted me. And that took like 2.5 days of me packing up my apartment. It took a full 2.5 days for me to just like get myself back out of bed and like start
Yeah.
packing again. So like I,
Yeah.
I already had a little bit of time to pack, and then my days were going based on all of the drama that was falling out of the sky to
Yeah.
keep me distracted and to help me not get on that plane. And when I got on that
Yeah.
plane, I was so exhausted because I felt like I'd been through like 10 wars.
You had.
Yes. And then you called me, and I was like, how did Marina know to call me? I was literally like, oh my God, the skies opened up. You literally called me, and I was just like turning the corner of like, okay, what do I need to focus on?
Yeah. But that's why we need each other. And
Absolutely.
I cannot emphasize enough that especially when you're going through this process of separating from the people and the things and the institutions that are keeping you in place, when you're choosing to transition out of it, how important it is to have people that you can trust that are also on that road. We were reading the parable of the sower. That was our first book,
Woo.
and which was also like happening all at the same time. Like, so we're reading this book together and we're having these conversations and we're getting to know each other on Patreon and in the book club, and they're having separate conversations, and like people started having their relationships and having their own meetings outside of our main meeting on Sunday. And you are given this idea the extent to which it will actually sustain is beside the point. Sometimes you just need the emotional support of having other people who are also seeking to change their lives in a specific way. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a support group.
Yes.
It's part of what I do with the relocation. It's also spiritual and emotional support, because really that's when you fall off. It's not the plan, it's the emotional response
Ooh,
to the stimuli, right? Because your plan was
yes.
solid.
It didn't feel solid. It it did not feel solid, even though I knew that, I'm a Taurus. I don't like change. I like to stay rooted. I don't make decisions that unless I've
Yeah.
researched it 1,000,000,000 ways. I'm risk averse, and this whole thing
Risk
made me itch.
averse.
This thing made me itch and break out. And
Oh,
I also knew
goodness.
I had to do it. I also knew I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. And so another thing is that with preparing me is that, as I mentioned before, I'm a student. I'm a full-time student, and so I finished all of my coursework requirements from 2018 to 2020, and so I finished in 2 years, which is very unique because I knew that I would be able to go wherever I wanted to once I
Yes.
finished this past May. I didn't know that I'd be coming here. Like, I didn't know that I'd be free enough to actually go wherever I wanted. I thought I would just go back home to New York and continue. But now I'm here. And so everything lines up, even when you don't know that the things that are happening, why you're doing
Yes.
them or why you're driven to
Yes.
do them. I was driven to finish in 2 years, which is kind of wild. But
Yeah.
now, had I not, I would have had to stay
Yes.
in New England. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so take us through getting off the plane and thawing and realizing where you were. Because a lot of people don't fully understand or know what, when you say I'm a PhD student, help them understand what that means.
Okay, so what that means is one of my three suitcases is entirely full of books, just books, and just having to decide what books am I going to take with me? What may I need? I'm literally in the process of writing my exams right now. Um, it means that I think all day long and I write and I think, and I'm TAing a course with a faculty member. I'm on research teams, conducting my own research. So internet, having stable internet and strong internet was something that was on my needs list. Like Marina always talks about your needs, your four needs. One for me was internet. I needed stable, strong internet. I needed the sun. I know vitamin D helps my mood. I also
Yes.
needed water to be near me. So I have a pool there, and I just needed the sun, and I just needed to be able to get my Lupita my tan on.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I needed. And I need avocado and mango. I don't need nothing else.
It's important because you actually sat, I remember in the early conversations, I was like, okay, you want a hammock and sand,
Yes.
and you need internet,
Yes.
and you need, these things, because the process of evaluation is not so that you can have a conversation with me. It's so that you can process in your own mind what your needs are.
Right.
And that helps you figure out where you can be.
Right. Yeah.
This is an important process of getting to know oneself and being clear about what you need as an individual. And
Yeah.
that part for some people can take months, and some people it can take a matter of days, but it doesn't have to be as complicated as we think that it has to be.
It doesn't. I agree. And so when I was ready, I just left. And like, I also knew that I felt a mounting pressure that things were turning in a certain direction in the US. I felt it in my body, I felt it in my spirit, and I knew that it was not a safe place for me to be. And so I knew I had to go. But I also have an understanding of the world where I feel like I could go anywhere. And that something you mentioned earlier in one of your sessions, your lives, is that we as Black people can go anywhere and should go anywhere. That
We can.
we are so central to everything in the world that
Yes.
everything is ours. And so I believe that. And so part of 2018 to now, I've been traveling for my studies. I've been traveling and presenting all over the world for my studies. And so thinking about just packing three suitcases and going, if that wasn't terrifying in that sense, the most terrifying thing was the internet, really. Yeah.
Talk about when, and I don't know if this has happened yet, because maybe it hasn't. Have you, I should say, have you gotten to a place where you see yourself as an expat?
No.
Not yet.
No. I
Tell
don't
the
know
people
what I
how long you've
am.
been gone.
Woo!
It's
Oh
very
my
new.
gosh. It's so new. Today's what, Wednesday? Is today Wednesday? I don't know
Yeah.
what day it is. Today's
Yeah, it's
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So it's 4.5 weeks.
Okay.
4.5 weeks. 4.5 weeks. I cannot even, first of all, time is going quickly, but also the experience is going quickly. So I'm trying to also like take it in. But
Yeah.
I can't believe that I've been out of the US for 4.5 weeks. But I just knew that another linchpin for me personally was that I did not want to be in the US for November elections. Like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be
Yeah.
there. Nope.
Yeah. And for for you guys that are just coming in, Kat is in Mexico. It wasn't the original destination.
Right.
Tell
Right.
them about that, because a lot of people are like, I don't know if I should wait. I don't know
Right.
if I should just, a lot of people want to go to Costa Rica. They want to come join us here, or they
Yeah.
may want to go somewhere else, but there was all of the lockdowns and the restrictions. So what made you decide to go on and take the leap to go to
Oof.
Mexico?
I was at a crossroads where I didn't know where I was going to go because I knew I wanted to leave. My lease was ending August 31st. Like I knew that I would have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I had a reading with you. I was like, one of my, Marina, please help me. I need another reading moments. And I was like, I don't know where I'm going next. I know I will end up in Costa Rica. That is the plan. That is the end goal.
Yeah.
I just didn't know because of the border closings, like how I would get there because I don't want to sign a whole nother year lease and then have to break it. Like I know I'm coming to Costa Rica. And
Uh-huh.
so once Mexico opened up and my reading with you was what it needed to be, that was it. I was okay with pivoting and just going to Mexico. And I'm more than fine with it because it gives me a nice intermediary before I get to where I'm going
Yes.
next. Yes.
Yeah. The process of thawing when you leave, I actually had an intermediary, which I don't really talk much about, so I guess I probably should now.
Mm.
I went to Uruguay. I left Los
Ooh.
Angeles, bought a house in Texas because I had no money. So ours was a 3-year plan because I had no money. It wasn't even, so what little money there was available, instead of finishing college, my ex-husband and I bought a house in Texas for like $89,000, but it was in a college town. We did the renovations ourselves, every single thing we did ourselves because there was no money to pay anyone. We ended up selling the house. We made a decent profit. Then we went to Uruguay because Uruguay was a possibility. It had very good frameworks for different visa options, and we wanted to try it out. We didn't know anybody in Uruguay. We didn't know anybody in Brazil. So we
Mm.
actually spent several months there, and that's
Wow.
where I thawed out. That was my thawing place. We'd spent
Mm.
Christmas there into near the summer in Uruguay. And I realized that Uruguay was not the place for me,
Mm-hmm.
not because it wasn't a good place, but it didn't resonate with us, which was fine because it was nice that I got to go through my emotions, bawled my eyes out, went through all of that in Uruguay. So then when we got to Brazil, I was mentally ready. I was
Mm.
mentally prepared. I could tell the difference between the things that I didn't like because I didn't like the place, and the
Right.
things that I didn't like because I was going through my own emotional process, because they're different. And sometimes you can mush it all together and it's like, this was a bad idea. I shouldn't have come. I don't like this place. This is horrible. And really, it's just a part of you going through the separation,
Yeah.
and it can be hard to tell. Talk about that.
Ooh. Ooh. I will say all of my meltdowns since I've been in Mexico, I'm in Tulum, have been related to the internet. That all of my meltdowns, the 2 to 3 that I've had, have been related to the internet slowing down.
Internet.
Um,
Ah.
yeah, and so because I spend all of my time on the internet for work and for school, that just needs to be there. And so I'm very grateful to have the internet that I have, because it could be a lot worse. So I'm happy. I'm grateful. Thank you. But I think that's something that kind of like turned me around a few times, and
Yeah.
also had made me think, was this the right choice? Did I make a big, bad decision? Should I have done this? Did I make a mistake? I've had that conversation with myself probably once a week since I've been here. Yeah. But I also know that it's the right decision. I also very much know that, but I also still feel, did I make the right choice? It's just like a bad idea, but I know it's the right idea.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think and I appreciate that you're being so candid about that, because that is something that
Mm-hmm.
you will do. Was this a bad idea?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
this a bad idea? Did I make a mistake? Should I have rethought this? Did I have holes in my plan? Da 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 da. All of that is natural and normal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so important that when those moments happen, then we're able to pull back and look at things objectively, hold space for our feelings. Like I'm always saying, we have to honor our feelings so that they don't blow up and become behemoths that pull us back into what we were comfortable with. So when you're feeling, I'm frustrated, I'm scared, I don't know if I made the right choice, feel the feelings. Don't stuff them. Feel the feelings so that they don't keep you up, so that they don't confuse your thoughts, so they don't start making you doubt. It's really, really important to consider those feelings, because they'll pass
They will. And they'll come back and they'll pass.
and they'll come back and
And
then
they'll
they'll
pass.
pass again. And sometimes you need to have a conversation, and sometimes you need to not be bothered with anyone, and sometimes you're going to want to go out, and sometimes you're not going to want to be seen by anybody. We need to be really clear and aware of what it is that we're doing, and the monumental amount of intent and honor for ourselves that it takes to do this.
Yeah.
Because it really does. Like, it's not a small feat. And anyone who's even thinking about it and having these conversations, pat yourself on the back. Really. Pat yourself on the back. Show yourself honor, because you're doing something that millions of us want to do and don't even feel comfortable talking about.
Right. And, when I think about it, as a whole, Black people we have a traveling spirit. We have a traveling energy to us. We have been traveling whether or not it's been our choice or not. And so in our history, wherever you're from in the diaspora, like, we move. So it's not something that's completely foreign to Black people, in my estimation. We can pick up and go when we need to. History has proven this, whether it's been our
Mm-hmm.
choice at first or not our choice. And so
Yeah.
I think if we get comfortable with the world is ours, then that will
Woo!
help us to take that leap, because the world belongs to us. We have made the world.
Talk about, because what you just said, and I know that that goes into your academics, and it's something I touch on, but I would like for you to go a little deeper about that. We do have a traveling spirit.
Yes, we
Those
do.
of us that are born in the US tend to not view ourselves that way because we don't see ourselves abroad. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, as an immigrant to the U.S., as a Caribbean woman, I know that I know where I come from in a certain sense. Okay, some of my people came from India, some of my people came from West Africa, some of my people came from Grenada, Barbados, Guyana, all of that. I understand that. I'm stitching together this certain kind of like tapestry of like bits of information that I carry in my DNA, that I carry with me. And
Yes,
so
yes.
although my mother and father, we came to the US when I was very small, I have an understanding that we can go anywhere. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know where it came from. Probably this is just part of what I had to do, which is why I'm doing it in my work. But we are sovereign to the world. I believe that to my core.
It's
And
facts.
I know that we as Black people in the diaspora should be free to do anything and go anywhere without compunction.
Literally.
Without compunction. We
Literally.
must. We have to. That's how we discover ourselves again. And so it's like I could go to Cuba. I went to Cuba in 2018 and it felt like home. I was in Cuba and I loved it. It changed my life. I hadn't been back home to my home country in over a decade, and I went back, and I just things fell into place. So there's a certain kind of thing about the U.S. that just doesn't feel like home, even if you're from the U.S.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just so like it's just so intrusive, you know.
yes.
And I'm grateful for all that I've received in the U.S. and all of my family and friends and community in the U.S. But there is an architecture to that way of being that is intrusive to who we are, and it doesn't want us to
We
thrive
are
or live.
global citizens. It doesn't,
It
because the
doesn't.
system itself was built to separate us from that.
Exactly.
And if we're in, and if we, if we have people in this space questioning whether or not that's even a thing, this probably isn't the conversation for you. Like, we're having intellectual conversation about certain facts. And one of those facts that has to be accepted is that the system itself that we are living under, that has permeated the entire world, white supremacy and patriarchy, has been designed exclusively and pointedly, specifically, to keep a particular group of us, especially, at the lowest possible realm. Other
Mm-hmm.
groups have absolutely suffered under the system. That's not
Mm-hmm.
deniable. But it has been created to keep us down wherever it is that we are. And
I
in a
agree.
very particular kind of way in developed countries, the United States, Canada, UK, specifically. And so that is the basis from which we're having this conversation. If that's like up for debate or you don't agree, then you're not going to follow this line of thinking, that we are in fact global citizens, that we are absolutely 100% within our right to want to live literally anywhere that we want.
Mm-hmm.
And that we have the right to utilize and get access to infrastructures that were created specifically to keep us out, to now take back. That's why I'm in
Woo!
Escazú and
Woo!
not on the Caribbean side, because I have a right to this infrastructure because it was built in some part or another on my back. So I am reclaiming all parts of what is best and good and most beautiful for myself and for my people. That's my platform.
Mic drop. Mic drop.
But it's
Mic
true.
drop. It's
And
so
people don't
true.
understand. Why don't
It's
you
so
just go back
true.
to Africa? Why don't you go to the Caribbean? Well,
Well,
there's reasons.
there's lots of reasons.
Why didn't you go back home?
Whew, why I didn't go back home? Okay.
The people want to know, Kat.
There's an. Okay. There was a very contentious election that literally just finished. Like the results came out probably a month or so ago now. These elections were going on for months. Like it was just wild.
Wow.
And so in Guyana, where I am from, there's a large Afro community and Indo community and Chinese community and all of this. And due to the US and other superpowers
Meddling.
finding their exactly meddling in country affairs, it is really challenging for me to go back there. And that was my first thing was like, I'm just gonna go home. That's it.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
home is not it's not a safe place. The infrastructure is not what it should be, and it's continuing to evolve. But the U.S. is meddling, China is meddling. There's a lot of oil that was recently found there. So there's a lot of interest in this small little place all of a sudden, and a lot of the elected officials that look like me, that look like you, are not working for people, right? And so for me to go back there, I'm going to need to formulate a longer plan that may incorporate me just going there for a few months a year,
Yeah.
but not the whole year. It's not going to work. And by safety, I don't mean physical. Like there's physical danger as well. There's violence against women, for sure. But there's also a lot of political strife that would not welcome me as like they would now be like, you're American, so we don't even want you back here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you spoke to that, because there's this assumption from a lot of people that if you have roots, if you're an immigrant or whatever, then that means that it should be easy and you should just go back there. What Kat just spoke about is she literally spoke to the sections that when I tell you guys to do your research, that I want you to do your research about, right? What is the history of this place? Where do the contentions lie? How are people that look like you, how are they treated? What is the political stance there? Who else is involved? Why are they involved? What is the long-term likelihood that this will be a safe place for you? All of that, all of those things matter. And you have to look at it. And when I talk about the continent and people go, well, the continent, I'm like, the people look like you. Are they taking care of their own people? First
and foremost.
Because if you don't consider that, then you're looking at the continent with eyes of a colonizer. Yes, I said it. If you don't care about how it is that the people that look like you are being led by their leaders that look like you, then you are looking at it through the eyes of a colonizer. And I won't participate in that. If I'm going to look at a place with eyes of a colonizer, it's not going to be where my own people are suffering. Okay? Because I'm not going to participate in the further oppression of my own people. I'm not going to use my dollars to further oppress people in their own country. I'm not going to do that. And that's where it gets really, and people get mad at me, but you're making the same choice. You are deciding not to go to a place where people that look like you, where your actual countrymen are not being treated well. Why would you go and participate and add your dollars to help a system that's participating in that? That doesn't make any sense. We have to be thinkers beyond our feelings.
At all. And, you know, I know my grandparents and such were freedom fighters in my home country. They were activists. They were deep in politics. I have roots where I could go and find out and be like, all right, I'm coming back. Let me find a place. Let me disrupt things. But being calm and steady and being measured, I personally know that the work I need to do that will impact, you know, where I'm from and Black people where I'm from and Black people globally requires long-term planning and thinking. And so I can't necessarily go home and just say, oh, I'm going home. Like, what is going home going to do for me? Nothing right now. But paying attention and reading and studying history and like paying attention to the trends because they're cyclical, but also because you need to know where you're going. And like, you need to know the temperature of the place where you're going, wherever you're going. And so for me, yeah, it hurts that I can't go back home. I know I can't go back home. I can't go back home no time soon. But that's okay. I'll be there eventually.
And this is important because I touched on it a little bit when I talked to Napihead Jojoba and Seren, when I was discussing this idea that sometimes you being outside of like physically outside, but doing your work doesn't mean that you're abandoning your people or your fight. And I think that that really needs to be said, and we need to hold space for that. We're not, I'm not a proponent of elitism that ignores the struggles of our people. And something that actually Julesy, who I got on her live the other day, and I said, you know, I asked the question, like, would you ever consider leaving and, you know, becoming an expat, because she makes her money, you know, on the internet. And she was like, no, I don't want to abandon my people. And I'm like, you're a thinker that I respect, but that's a very ignorant, that's ignorant, because that pretends that I'm from LA. There are people who grow up in the hood and move to Beverly Hills and pretend as if the struggles that they grew up with no longer exist. Elitism is something you can do in your own city. So leaving the country does not automatically mean that you're doing that. You can be in your own city and be an elitist. It's about your intention and your commitment to the work. So you moving yourself to a safe space where you have the freedom to think and create and come up with solutions and provide respite. You can do that in your own city, and you can do that out of the country. So we have to think wider. Absolutely. We need to stop being so reactive and so limited in our own view of what we can do. Because my work is actually, I'm doing way more work since I've left because I feel safe, not fearful for my life. I have room to think. I have room to read and educate myself even further and have these conversations. But I wanted to take a moment to just say to you, because this is something that you will probably get, She has her own YouTube platform. I'm going to post it, links to it. People are going to attack you and say, you've abandoned the cause because, you're not being rubber bulleted and you're not in the streets protesting, that you're not in the cause anymore. And even our most premier thinkers spent time abroad. Most of them went to Europe, but some went other places. Nina Simone left. People leave and they come back, and they leave or they don't come back, but they're still doing their work. Yes.
Listen,
And I agree with Paisal. Black women are the cause. We must be protected, and we are not protected, especially in the U.S. and in the U.K. We must preserve ourselves.
Yeah. No, you're saying everything. I'm in this live. I'm sitting here listening to you like, oh yeah, like I'm not on the screen with you. I'm just like, yes.
But no, I mean, and you deserve, and you need to know that you're supported in that.
So true. And one thing I love and respect so much about you is that you are so pro-Black American. And I'm saying that intentionally. Your devotion to being a strong Los Angeles woman, knowing where you're from and that history of where your people are from and what that means is not at all divisive. It is powerful.
Thank you.
And I just command you, and like, command is the wrong word, but I commend you. Yes, I commend you for being so rooted in what you're doing and why you're doing it and knowing where you're going. And so I say that as someone who is pro-Black as well, but also very, very pro-Black Caribbean, because we don't even know half the things that we need to know about why our countries are doing what they're doing. And so I think if we work together in our sphere of influence, we can impact Blackness on a global scale. And so that is essentially important to me.
That's what needs to happen.
We have to work with what we know. And I know the U.S. in a tertiary way. Like, yes, I grew up in the U.S. and I studied U.S. because I went to school in the U.S. But I also need to know what shenanigans are going on back home. You know? And so I can't expect anybody to learn that history if I don't know that history.
Yes. And that's so important.
Yeah.
Because there is this weird,
way weird.
I think it's weird. There's this weird, it's this conversation that people don't want to have about the because, okay, my grandmother's Bahamian, right? So my grandmother, her parents were from the Bahamas. Both of her parents were born in the Bahamas. Her older sister was born in the Bahamas. She was actually born in the Florida Keys back in the day. That's where she was born, right? But my aunt, her sister, was born in the Out Islands. My great-grandparents are from Acklands. I know up close, because I have a Bahamian grandmother, the perspectives and the differences in the opinion of Black Americans compared to the optics of an immigrant and the why don't you do this? And she would tell me, like, looking at you, you never know, like, you look like us, so you can just tell people that you're Bahamian and you'll get better treatment. Like, she would tell me this, like, you're there's a preference, and there's a difference when you present yourself differently. Now, my other grandparents are all from the U.S. They're from Ohio and from Mississippi, and but she was like, and I look very island. People see me and they're like, oh, you're an island girl. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I look like, but I'm acutely aware of that. And there is, my grandmother understood relocation and movement and moving with intention and with purpose, right? Because she watched her father do it. My great-grandfather, during the Depression in the 30s, had a thriving club in business, and I believe he ran moonshine. She won't admit to it, but I'm certain he did, because he had money. Like, he was buying dresses for his daughters from Paris and shit like that. He didn't get that from a club, okay? He was running off the keys, bringing alcohol to the States. I'm not mad at it. It is what it is. But she has this understanding and this very specific, I am here to extract, to get, to... right? In this way, because she was raised that way. And there's this, why don't you guys do that kind of thing?
Right. I hear you.
And it's like, well, because when that's where you are, you view things differently. There's there is a preference. Like I live now and I've lived in Brazil, right? I got preferential treatment for being a foreign Black
Right.
versus being a homegrown Black. It was like,
Right.
oh, you're not like these. You're different. You're an American Black. And it was like,
Hmm.
I had never experienced that before, but it's a very real thing
It is
because
real.
a lot of the biases, the anti-Black racism is global, but then there's also anti-local Black bias that happens and
Hmm.
then gets internalized by the Black people there in the space. And we are not a monolith.
Right. Right. And I'm going to say something that people always get pissed off about, and I don't really care. But this is precisely what I do my research on Black
Yes.
identity formation and like how it shows up for Black immigrants and international students in higher ed
Mhm.
in the U.S.
Mhm.
Right. And so I
Mhm.
think a lot about identity all day long, but I see no problem in you uplifting Black Americans. I see no threat in that. I see no division. I see it as like you need to do it. Like it needs to happen.
Yeah.
The same way I
Yeah.
see no division and no problem with me thinking about what is going on in the region, in the Caribbean region. I need to
Yes.
figure this out.
Yes.
As a thinker, I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we have to have these diaspora wars for that. Like the stronger we are and knowing where we come from and what we need to do, the stronger we'll be. So I don't
Agreed.
operate in that space of like, oh, we have to talk. Like I don't. That's not my thing. But I
I
also know
appreciate that.
I have grown up with a lot of privilege that people on the job market have even told me. Oh, you're a different Black. We like you. We're gonna hire you. Like
Yeah.
I have been told the most egregious, discriminatory things once people find out I wasn't born in the U.S. And I'm like, oh, I peeped that. I clocked that. So you think I'm comfortable with that? You think I should just be okay with that? You think like it's weird, you know?
It's weird.
It's weird and wicked and bad mind, and I want no part of it. But I'll do
Yeah.
work. So I don't see a problem. I think we all need to know what's going on where we're from, because it will all
Yes.
help us together globally
Yes.
do what we
Because
need to
this is a
do.
global movement. And I
It
want
is.
people to understand part of the reason why I chose the name I did, the Global Black Girls, because I mean that shit. Like this is a global uprising. This is a call to action of all of us melanated people, women
Mm-hmm.
especially, to really take up the call to act and do things different and have these conversations and push our people forward and not just remain stagnant in in never ending complaint. We know what the problems are.
Right.
We do. And we're still learning more, but the ones that we know of have been there for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, 2020 was like, it was a call to action. It really was. Whether you plan to relocate, whether you plan to stay where you are, you still have shit to do. You still need to
Mm-hmm.
grow your food. You still need to build community. You still need, like, there are things that need to be done.
Right.
And I was like, I can't stand by and not speak about this and use whatever platform I'm able to create to shine the light on these things. I'm going to be talking with, there's some amazing women that I'm looking forward to talking to that are in the UK. Black women that are from Africa who live in the UK. They have their own set of challenges. It's different.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what that experience is like
Mm-hmm.
100%, because I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to have family on the continent who, went through all of these things to get me to the UK to then experience discrimination. Like, I don't know what that story is, but it's a part of my story because they're my sisters. We're
Mm-hmm.
all cousins and sisters and we're family. We need to respect what's happened in each other's households because they're
Mm.
different.
They're different. And not only are they different, but they can be used as tools, for all of us if we
Absolutely.
like can get over the hump of this like
Yes.
base level thinking, we can
Yes.
work together if we celebrate each other, like the specific things that are just innate and in our DNA and that is like culturally in us and we carry with us. Like
Yes.
I'm just like, why do people continue to like think in the lowest realm? I'm so confused by that
We're trying to raise
because
the frequency.
it's
We're raising
risen.
the
It's
vibration.
rising. It is
Yeah.
risen. Boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the other way is just going to keep us down by design. And people that are designing that, division amongst us, they don't look like us, but they're benefiting from us like having these silly little diaspora wars, which make no sense at all.
Yeah, they don't, and it's not necessary. It's
Unnecessary.
totally not necessary. But if we don't talk about it, then it continues. And if we don't show respect for that, it continues.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no issue. It's manufactured, really. It's manufactured and we participate in it. If we stop participating in it, this is one of those things that we actually can't control because it's between us. We can stop participating in it. You can be uncomfortable by being told you're exceptional. I used to get oh, you're better than them. You speak clearly. Where are you from? That's what I used to get. I'm like, I'm from here, actually. But what? Like that, oh, you're exceptional. Us being comfortable in it and accepting it is part of the problem. We that know that this exists, having these conversations, letting people know, being honest about it is and not feeling away. I wouldn't be mad at you for trying to lift up your cousin or your auntie or whatever. Like, why would I feel away about that? I understand that we're all family, but we come into this from different places, and we really have to do better at supporting each other. We really do. Yes, I agree always, Lydia, American Blacks have been indoctrinated with fear. Oh, my God. All the fear. Why would you leave the U.S.? Like, in that way, I think that we're actually indoctrinated the same way that other Americans, including white Americans, are with this, why would I learn another language? Why would I travel? Like, we travel the least. As a country, we don't speak other languages. Like, it's just this, we are the pinnacle. Why would we, learn about other places or see how life is? And Black Americans, I think, too, have this, we're going to be treated like shit everywhere we go, so why? I hear that a lot.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily true.
No.
But there is levels to the shittiness.
There's levels to it.
There's levels,
yes.
And there's discriminatory actions everywhere, right?
Yes.
Even, I've just been in Mexico 4.5 weeks now, and I definitely have felt the look from white-passing, white-looking Mexicans. Like, why are you on this fancy beach? You're sitting in the cabana. You don't look like you belong here. And they think I don't understand. I took Spanish from, like, elementary school in New York City all the way to college. Okay, I'm not going to let you... I understand what you're saying. I understand that you're talking crap about me because you see a Black woman in a space you don't think I belong in.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you figure that out. Not my problem. I'm not going to explain it to you. But get out of my face and let me order my daiquiri, okay?
That's right. That part. And we do need to speak to that because it's weird because I know that I say it a lot, but I still get people saying, oh, you're pretending like there's no racism. I say this on every time that I'm live because it has to be said. Racism exists everywhere. Anti-Black racism specifically exists everywhere. But is it deadly everywhere? No. And when I'm talking about relocation, when I'm having this conversation with my sister Kat, I'm talking to her about survival. Like, we really need to get into that because it's weird that everyone acts like we're talking about, differences in color or in architectural styles. No, we're not talking about frivolous things. We're talking about fleeing fear of death because we are Black. That's what we're talking about.
It's real.
Everything else is minor. We're talking about being able to live. Where can we go and live without fear of being killed because we're Black?
That's real. And I had this conversation with my mother last week. My mother, I'm not going to say her age. I was about to say her age, but I'm not going to say her age.
She's an elder.
Yeah, she's an elder. But I said to her that very line. I said, Mom, discriminatory practices and racism is everywhere. Anti-Blackness is global, but you don't get killed for it everywhere. And then, like, literally 15 minutes into the conversation, my mother repeated the line to me. I was like, oh, yes, I'm using Marina talking points with my mother, and she's repeating them
I
to
gotta
me.
put this on a t-shirt. I
Listen,
do.
you do, because my mother was like, yes, you're right. And I'm like, yes, yes. Because my mother is now like, she's worried about everything, but she's in New York City. My family's in New York City. And they're all like, oh, we need a plan. Now they're starting to talk about a plan. Some kind of a plan. Which,
Wow.
that would not have been a thing. And now there's like little
Wow.
seeds of conversation that I'm having with family members about, so what's going to happen? What are you going to do? Where are you
That's
going to go?
beautiful.
And that wouldn't have happened 6 months ago, not even 4 months ago.
Because you were brave and you stepped out alone. And a
Yeah.
lot of us that are like, I don't want to leave my family. I don't want to leave my family. You may be what saves them. You are
Mm-hmm.
giving them somewhere to go. You are inspiring them to have conversations and to consider things that they didn't.
Yeah.
You are doing them a favor at a spiritual level, at a soul level, by challenging the status quo and helping to deprogram their minds. If they're even open to it, they'll
Mm-hmm.
find out because you left.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
I, I'm completely flummoxed every single day, because now I have more conversations with my family. My family and I are even weirdly closer in this moment, which is not a normal thing.
Wow, that's
We talk all the
beautiful.
time, and one of my sisters said to me, "I want to be like you when I grow up." And they're all older than
Wow.
me.
Yeah, you're the
I'm the
baby.
youngest. I'm the youngest. I'm not the baby. I'm the
You're the
youngest.
youngest.
I'm the
You're the
last
youngest.
born. I'm the last born. But yeah, that was like trippy for me.
That's
I'm like, y'all can stay
amazing.
there. Y'all can stay in New York. I love New York. New York forever. Y'all can stay there. But it ain't got nothing for me right now.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, I want to
Well,
make sure before we time out that you share with the people your information. Pi, please, when she says what it is, put it in so I can pin it. Kat
oh
has a
yeah.
YouTube. Follow her on
Oh yeah.
Instagram.
Oh yeah, my little baby YouTube. It's EduSankofa, EDU Sankofa. It's all, and
EDU Sankofa.
I'm on Twitter as EDU Sankofa. I'm an educator, so I think about all things education for all people that are Black. Um, and that's my YouTube. I'm also on Instagram at Caribbean
Kofa.
Scholar Things, Sankofa.
Cofa. Sankofa.
Yeah,
That's wrong.
KOFA. Sankofa.
Kofa. Sankofa.
KOFA. And I'm also on Instagram as Caribbean Scholar Things, which is a whole different platform. But there, I'm trying to get Caribbean people to think about what can we do to stop the foolishness, and what can we do to help ourselves and to do the work that we need to do for like all of this mess that's going on back home.
That's awesome. I'm so, so glad that you took the time to come on. I know you're very busy. You have all the things to do.
I do. You're the
It's
best.
been challenging. I know that it has been. But I
Yeah.
appreciate that you took the time.
Anything for
Um,
you. Anything for the anything for the family. Anything.
I'm still, as always, here to support you. You guys get into it. Follow her on YouTube.
Thank you.
Follow her on Instagram. Support those of us that are doing this work. We are in the minority, and we need your support.
Yeah.
We need your active
Woo.
support.
Woo.
Share, talk, because we're having conversations and we're tackling issues that people don't want to talk about. And we are talking about things that get us unfollowed regularly. I know I get
Woo.
unfollowed in droves because people don't like the things that I'm saying, and it's uncomfortable. So we need your active support. Share, follow us on YouTube. Get her to 1,000. I'm almost at 1,000.
I
We're not
saw
even.
that.
Yeah,
Big
I'm
up,
almost
big
at 1,000.
up.
I'm
Woo
not.
woo.
I'm not
You could be
monetized yet.
monetized. You could be monetized by
I will be
tomorrow.
soon. I will be
Listen,
soon.
you can be monetized, then send that